was in here. I didn't realize it was in here. Well, howdy. How's everyone doing? Welcome to today's ITAM Kitchen. Let me change the screen here. We're going to have an educational session today.
Yes.
And welcome. If you haven't been here before, welcome. It's ITAM Kitchen. I'm glad you're here. When we talk about ITAM Kitchen, it's like, okay, what are we going to cook up, stew? I mean, everyone has different types of cuisine, right? We have cuisine. We talk about Italian. We can talk about technically pizza is not Italian, believe it or not. It was not made in Italy, but that's a whole different story. We talk about doing Chinese. We could talk about doing, I love Thai, right? We could talk about American. Let's talk about barbecue. How many different flavors of barbecue can we do, right? No, trust me, I've got a big green egg and I love making barbecue myself. All sorts of stuff, whether it's the ribs or Boston butt, or you take pork chops. There you go. Or you think about just the standard hamburger. There's all sorts of things, or you have some other dish you can do, right? Like I was doing with my girlfriend the other day, spaghetti squash. And it's like, oh yeah, I use spaghetti squash, a little bit of fish on top, and you do it just right. There you go. So, but we get us our tasty. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here in the East Coast, and you're here with us, which I really appreciate wherever you're in the globe. Put yourself in the chat and say where you're from, please. Yes. Put it in there and make that happen. It's all about the dialogue. Make that occur, and have some great guests as you see here, right here on the screen. Have Deanna, Rob, and Don Champlin, and put that in. So I want to dig right into this for today. Yeah, definitely. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the value inside of an ITAM program. Right. And we're going to talk about value. Everyone talks about value. And honestly, whenever you say different solution providers, and I used to do this when I worked at Flexair as well as other companies. Okay, here's the part of the business case, the ROI, how you put that in, right? Calculating. So something for putting in a new solution. But here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to switch this up a little bit. Because, again, we're talking about us true as the practitioner. We're the asset management, software asset management, configuration management. And keep in mind, we're like around the island in a kitchen, and we're having a chat. That's our overall idea here to put that in place, right? We're all friends. And we might have some vendors here, too, which is great. But still, we're all friends having a talk. We're that's the whole idea here. How can we put that forward? Again, how can we bring the fun into it? That's the idea, right? How do we define the value that we're providing to the organization with our program today? Mm-hmm. And what we'll do, we're going to decide, the team will decide, are we talking about overall asset management? We're going to talk about the hardware asset management, software asset management, configuration management. I'll let the team decide here, put that in place. But as we're doing that, and the reason why you see me in front of the smart board is I'm going to take notes as we do this and have a dialogue. Because we're going to pick one of those. I gave 4 options. It's focus areas, because if we try to do it all at once, there's no way we're going to get done with an hour. We still may not get done in an hour, depending on where we're at, right? But that's the whole idea behind the dialogue, is how can we be more influential and talk about from a value perspective. And value can be dollar amounts. It can talk about activities, et cetera. How do we pronounce that, identify that with what we do? So Deanna, Rob, Don, are you on board with this?
I'm on board.
Yeah, I know, because this is where the fun is. Honestly, this is where I get excited, pumped up, energized. You see, this is where I geek out, right? It's like when we start showing real value, we start having fun, and that's what I put in place. So let me change the screen here a little bit, and we're going to dig right into this, because as we get started, Don, I'll kick off with you. What immediately comes to mind that we need to make sure we have in place as we put this, what different areas do we need to focus on? We haven't figured out which area yet. Well, actually, before I do that, I'm jumping ahead. I am going to ask you the question there, Don, so I'm prepping you. I'm getting you primed, but let me ask a question just before that for everybody. Guys, guys and gals, do we want to do ITAM, SAM, hardware asset management, or configuration management for this value discussion?
Being the first, I would prone to go with the ITAM. Start at the top.
Let's start at ITAM where we all started to begin with.
Deanna, you good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Cool. Okay, there we go. It's all about democratic approach, right?
Absolutely.
And from that, Don, I'll let you kick it off. one of the key areas, or a couple key areas that come to mind that we need to start from. And let's do a couple key areas, then we're going to turn that question over to Rob as well as Deanna, or vice versa, whichever way it goes, to also contribute and see, okay, what areas do we need to make sure we include with this? So go for it. Where do you want to start?
Okay. So the premise around this value has always been there ever since the very beginning. So let's back up and just have that historical statement.
Well, let's just dig right into it if we could.
Dig right into
on this one. Yeah.
Okay. On this, you guys, I'm gonna set the overall. It's a holistic viewpoint, even within ITAM. So you have an enterprise value.
Okay. Enterprise
area.
Got it. Actually, I'm gonna do something different. Keep going.
Okay. You're looking at business services within that enterprise. Within that, you look at financial operations.
Okay. Finance. Got it.
You're going to look at the in the business services area, manufacturing is. There's operations associated with that have dependency.
Okay.
You got some HR in there as well.
Well, keep in mind we're looking from an overall on the part. So you have different aspects. You're right. We can grow into that, but for asset management in general, right? We're talking about
asset management in general,
right?
For asset management in general, but yeah. Okay, for asset management in general, finance, manufacturing, cybersecurity has some input there.
Well, these are stakeholders, but I don't know if we have value, right?
Yeah, stakeholders have that they're.
So
yeah, you want stakeholder buy-in, so you're trying to generate that. So it's really information technology, obviously. So ITSM would be another input in there.
Okay.
And in this current environment, anything you're going to do is going to have AI is going to show up in here too. So
I think we're going a little. So usually, what comes to mind for me, Don, and I'm just thinking, right, is when we think about value, right? So you've got the people, the process technology.
Right.
You have the operational activities tied around it, and you have some of these involved, right? So they're going to see value.
Yeah.
They're going to be for.
Well, if you want to take it back to that rudimentary, it's always people, process, and technology.
Okay. Yeah, because my thought was if you put there, right, so, and again, we're having dialogue, right, as a business around the island chat, is when from there you can figure out, okay, where you want to spawn it from. But if you do foundationally the people, process, technology, it's more, and I say technology holistically, I'm not just talking about a tool. Then we talk about, okay, what's the value the ITAM is going to provide to the different stakeholders, and we can further expand that into their area.
Well, yeah. When you talk about value generation, then it's always how does it impact within that whole holistic organization, which is the enterprise. That's why enterprise sits in this topic at the top. So it's always people, process, and technology. People have to be there. We want in value generation. We want a common language to occur between the two. So people is the hardest one in this area. Okay, people, technology would be the various tools that you're dealing with, but it involves what do we need to do to that tool to bring value. If you want to back it up to be that, because the whole thing is based upon the pain that you're trying to solve, or the implementation of a capability that you don't have.
Well, correct. And for me, when it comes to tool, that's only 20% of what we're talking about.
And it's 20%. People to me is a big I think people govern probably almost 70% of this whole thing we're talking about. Technology fits back in there with another maybe 60%, and technology another 20%. When you look at what's happening within that area, so the technology. Okay. I want to say this right. We have to set a level mindset, even in value generation. You can't have value generation till you have a commonality of language being spoken between the various areas that are involved within your stakeholders on this particular thing. The pain that might have brought you into this is chaos. You don't know anything. The pain might be risk. See, risk it takes a different thing. You're trying to maintain compliance, but value generation is all about what happens overall within your organization, even within ITAM. So you have people out there that are hooked in doing work every day. They are just as involved in what you're going to do in ITAM as anybody else. So when you talk about value generation, then we're talking about what is your end goal at the very end of this, but you have to get started somewhere. So you start with where you are in this maturity model, based upon how you're going to enter when you're coming in with the ITAM. If you're at the very beginning.
Okay, so let's pull it. Let's get into it, because we're losing some time here. So we have people across technology. If there's a specific bullet under these, let's identify what those are that we need to flag for identifying value.
Have the proper stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? You know, you always answer who, a what, a why, and a where, and how.
Okay, so you can further vet that out, right?
Right, and that is it. On both sides of the spectrum, you got stakeholders that are there from a technology standpoint, stakeholders that are there from a business standpoint, in the areas that are affected by that. And I would say that one in process, I'm looking at, I would say want the financial aspect in there on process as a stakeholder.
Okay.
Bill, I'm trying to get to the fact that none of this happens in value generation without a level setting of alignment. When you bring business or the enterprise and IT together, a common language has to occur, but that common language spills into how you're going to interface going forward across the entire organization to bring alignment.
Right. No, absolutely, and not debating that. Absolutely right. So the goal was, if we're going to say, as an existing program, we already have something running today, right?
Right.
It's you are the asset manager. How are you going to demonstrate to leadership that you are providing value to organizations, so you actually are not on the cutting block for the organization when they say you're going to do staff reductions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm getting very granular, very detailed in there, because that's what's happening today.
Well,
right? We have lots of listeners here that say,
Yeah.
Okay, I just lost my job because I don't have a clue what just happened. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Well, the very granular happens because you didn't do what you needed to do to begin with to start that
Well,
that whole aspect of how you're governing, how you're managing, how you're interfacing. Value generation is all about what is your contribution in to that area. The pain and the thing that drives what's happening here is is the intent is to not let it ever get to that thing. So you have to have a general transformational mindset rechange. That mindset rechange only occurs whenever you can get the people that are driving that on board to what needs to happen within the organization.
right. So at that point, you're talking about governance, right?
That's governance.
So it's got governance. Part of that's communication, right? So let's. I'm just going to label it down here. It's going to make it easier. So let's let Rob and Deanna add a little bit more contribution on this, and let's see how we can continue to add to this. We've got a little bit of start here. What other things come to mind?
One of the
Yeah,
things
What comes to mind? Go for
when
it.
we're talking about the people, that's the only area where we have to actually understand that they have feelings and they have needs, they have wanting to move forward or not want to move forward, and how we handle those people. When you have really long-term employees and things change, they have a tendency to drag their feet. But if you hire new employees, they don't know the process yet, so they're not dragging their feet, but they're running to catch up.
Yeah,
Okay.
but why is that? Why does that happen?
Because they're in a new environment. When
Right,
you move from one place, ITAM is the same thing everywhere, but done
Right.
entirely different everywhere.
right.
And
But-
that's why the people focus is important because they're the ones doing the work.
Right. So you're bringing in a new employee into the thing. Why were they brought in incorrectly?
Well, I didn't say incorrectly. They're just newbies.
Well, they're
Not-
newbies, but why were they brought in not
Well,
properly
they may have
trained?
changed the process. The governance may have said you need to have different focus within that, and your current team may not have that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
But why did it happen?
Well, we don't know. Every company's lives are different.
Well,
Well,
you hit upon it. Culture, right? Culture.
Culture.
Culture is the big culprit here. And culture is a top-down level set, right? So culture is when we talk about that, and this is why the enterprise is so important. You're talking about C-level influence here.
Sometimes C-level influence doesn't really know what's going on. They just want it done.
That's correct.
right.
Absolutely correct.
And what Deanna just talked about, hers was, okay, you brought a new person on, right?
Right.
How do you get that new person on to have them to be up to speed or
Yep.
gradually come into be at the same caliber of where the existing person is? It could be somebody's retiring. It could be, okay, I need to add a new team member. It could talk about, okay, I'm adding a new, in ITAM in particular, I'll go software. And you need to add a new vendor into it, right? So, and they have the expertise in working with SAP versus Microsoft, right? So you could have lots of different parts, right? And I think that's where Deanna's coming from. Deanna, unless I'm misinterpreting something.
I don't disagree at all, Bill, but the whole thing starts back. You said that ITAM managers' head is on the chopping block because they're gonna do some layoffs. This IT asset manager wasn't properly educated and prepared going in. See, this is where it gets murky into what's happening today, or he or she came in with a different mindset based upon where they were. it happens.
Don, we're going to go back to
Yeah.
our focus. Our focus is help define what the value is. We're showing the organization, right? So how do we? What's areas? That's the core question, right?
Okay.
Is what areas are we focused on to actually help demonstrate to leadership to say, okay, here's how we're doing it. Because as you know, from an executive perspective, right, look at the dollars and cents, they're looking at the dollars and cents. They want to see how they can reduce cost, increase value, increase operational efficiency, and there's the third one I just can't think off the top of my head on a whim, but you have those focus areas, but it's all focused upon this. I have no idea what just happened. I'm having fun here with my tool. But anyways, but that's where I think, Dan, that's where you're coming from is like, okay, but we have a new team member on. Great. We want to see, for example, what's their level of training, their expertise. How are they coming along? As an executive, that's what I want to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
But you also,
Well, so let's let Rob chime in for a second here. Don.
Go ahead, Rob. Chime in. There's a root cause here.
Well, a couple of things, right? And the question is, how do you define value? Right? How do you define value to the people that are responsible for funding the program in the first place, right? One of the things that you need to do is you need to do assessments over time. That's absolutely necessary. And then you can start to address some of these items that you have up here on the board. The first two things that came to mind for me was a framework by which to evaluate that value and actually illustrate it, show it in the form of reporting or whatever. It could be any way, as long as it's communicated adequately to the people that are making the decisions. That's the most important part there, because these are the ones that are either going to keep you or get rid of you or wipe the entire team out. And I've seen a customer that did 3 different reorgs in 5 years, where it was just they didn't at all like what was coming from the top, so that was canned, and then subsequent team members below were also shuffled out. So the point around some of these, like people process tools, the governance is really important. If that's not established, then how are you going to control any of the other aspects of the ITAM program if that's not in place and it's not enforceable? So there's value in the incidents, there's value in the problems, there's value in were you audited, and so all of those metrics need to be taken into consideration, right? So those are the first few, and then a couple of the things that came up kind of stood out as well. Governance was top of mind. Assuming that you have an intact ITAM organization that's performing enough that it could be measured. There was another thing too that came up around this, and training was sort of a one way to look at it, from bringing somebody in new and having training plans for their roles that are being occupied by those people. And then the other thing that came up around that was, if you don't have your processes documented, then you can be at this for 24 years. It doesn't matter. If you don't have the processes documented, you have no idea how to translate from the business requirements and their needs over to how you support that from an IT or an ITAM perspective.
A lot of things I've also seen, people don't put their policies in place, and you can't write your processes unless you have your policies in place. So policies are more
that's under governance.
Yeah, policies are under governance. And without the policies in place, the people may not know how to act.
True.
Well,
they are. But
okay. That's true on everything that you guys have said. It's absolutely true. You can have everything on paper look absolutely pristine and still be out of sorts, because at the very root of that is truth. What truth are you following?
There should be a process by which you obtain that single pane of glass, as it's called, single source of truth, it's been called.
Right.
Well, all those things. Subsequent discovery that backs up what your current state is. Right. There's a lot of places to go with that.
Yeah, and truth has to come in behavior, how people are going to behave. So it's not just a matter of checkoffs within, which I've seen happen within this thing we're talking about related to truth. Truth,
Mhm.
truth is truth because it is acceptance and accountability and obedience within that truth
And repeatable.
and repeatable.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
And realizing that choices are made because people is the driving hang up here. So everything we're talking about on covenants, people is a big contributor to that, and getting that unity within the organization is what's important there. So see,
Absolutely.
this is where why do you get on the chopping block? Because you have a wrong mindset on truth within what you're doing, and that could be a corporate wide issue. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So it you have to determine why are we there
Yeah.
in where I'm at within this enterprise or organization. So
One
there's
of
a
the,
why, and then there's a how, and then and then there's a unity that has to occur. And that, if the organization is not in unity, everything we just talked about doesn't happen.
Well, a lot of people call that alignment, right?
It's alignment, but unity. Alignment is alignment only when it's bought into. And that's why you have to have accountability and unity go together.
with all of these new Six Sigma, well, it's old now. We're always asked to do more with less, and sometimes they will just say, "I'm sorry, you have 10 people in your department. We're now only giving you 9 people." They don't change anything, other than we now have to do more with less.
Well, absolutely.
There must be some acceptable loss, though, defined by
Yep.
that. It's
Yeah.
not as simple as we're going to reduce your team by 1 and we still have to meet all the same expectations.
Right.
A realistic discussion has to happen, and you say, if you're going to take 40 man hours a week off of our planning, then what's okay to suffer?
And then we'll take that money and buy new tools.
Well, yeah, we say suffer, and
Yeah.
and the errors occur because we become very lax in what we're trying to do. Why do you get over too many people in the arena? So things can change. Obviously, don't get me wrong, but if there's not a mindset towards how important the people are within the organization, because the people, to me, are the pristine determinant of whether you're going to be successful or not within the organization, and it's also the big determinant of what happens, and that is a cultural thing, and that is a top level down thing. Even all the way to the board can exercise culture decisions.
But so Don, we're back. We've come back. We keep going down these rabbit holes. So
It's
we're
not a
back
rabbit hole,
to
Bill.
identify where we are on. Again, we're trying to represent ourselves, right?
Okay.
With the governance, we got technology, we got the process, the people, right? Have a corporate focus. You're right. The why, the how, the alignment. That's really where executives are looking at. But this has to be part of it that goes into that, right?
Well, yeah, and it's the cause of what you're doing. Why are you cutting things?
Right, but keep in mind we have hundreds of people right now, right? Thousands of people that have just lost their jobs because this isn't occurring, right? So we're just trying to get clarity in how we can communicate this.
If you're coming in behind the fact, then it's still level set. You got to go back to why, and you got to reset so you can move forward. Value generation is all about how you get to the end game of what you desire to happen within your corporation.
Correct. So we've got those narrowed down. Just keep moving the board here. I don't know how I'm doing that.
So what do we try to accomplish here? Are we trying to accomplish saving our own job?
Yes.
Or are we if you're trying to accomplish how you save your own job,
That's part of it.
then you
Job,
have to
team, discipline,
Well,
Because I mean, literally, we have people losing. I'll just give an example. So we actually do have someone that has actually lost his job.
Sure.
He was doing his best and running it all, right? And they said, well, there's a cheaper resource. You're not the right value person. And you put them less expensive. And I think all of us have actually put that to a similar scenario. So trying to save the job, absolutely, that's part of this, right? Saving the discipline to say, okay, how can we move forward? Helping educate others. That's what we're talking about. How do we define the value that we're actually, us being in our spots is the right person to have in this place so we can continue this effort? So when we look at the people and process of technology as an example, what comes to mind for me, right, is people. You're right. Okay, focus, training. They're called also what's the readiness factor, right? Are they ready to perform that role? Are they not? Right. So how much overlap you're going to have from other stakeholders potentially? What's other team members? Yeah, that process, the documentation, definitely.
Absolutely.
Documentation's got hit and miss, right? I also put make sure you have the data you're going to measure, as well as the metrics and KPIs. That was where I was putting. I put some comments in there. Yeah. A lot of people forget about that. Okay, we're going to do process. Well, so what? If you don't measure it, where you go, right? Technology, we said tool here, but it's also, okay, what categories, right, are we measuring? Are we including, right? And I say categories or classes. You can say classes are going to go to CMDB, right? Yeah. And the whole idea is that, okay, are we doing servers? We doing desktops? We doing networks? We doing all the above? We got VPNs. We got virtual environments. That happening, right? And then we have governance, and I love the communication, the framework, the metrics, and policies. Absolutely. So that's where those are key areas. As an example,
let's back it up. So we'll just take you are there. You have just been given the chopping block. You're gone. You come back. And it can happen. It happened to me. It's happened to Bill. It's happened to Deanna. It's happened to Rob. So the question is, that it happened to is, how are you going to begin to address what happened for you personally within this situation?
Not what we're talking.
This is, forget the minutia.
Minutia. I think where we're going is how are we going to save our job before we get to that point. So that's the part we're trying to avoid.
Well,
right?
and if it's still there, you're still looking personally within yourself. What have I? What's missing here? What have I done? What do I need to do to correct that? Can it be corrected? That's a big issue right there. Can it be corrected? Your assessment of where you are determines what you're going to do going forward here.
Yep, we've got several comments coming in on top of it too. To add to that, so I've got
Curtis.
I can't see on the side.
Here's Cindy says governance to ensure that people are here to process. Absolutely, that's a great point.
Yeah.
We've got. Curtis Paul, usually a decision to cover resource how before the resource has an opportunity to make the case. Exactly. Right.
Yep.
So this is why we want to be proactive on this because the business feels they cannot pay for them regardless how they performed. Yep. Right. Absolutely. They hire at will. The challenge is 95% of the people in SAM don't have the skills needed to articulate corporate strategy that aligns how ITAM aligns to it. Dead on.
Well, you're dead on. Yeah. But now I'm the ITAM manager, or I could even be a CIO or a CTO or a CISO. Now I'm sitting here, and this is happening. So the issue here is why were they not properly educated? You see, if I'm the ITAM manager and I'm in here and I've got the responsibility of what's happening within this organization, which by the way includes SAM. I'm not taking SAM out of this under any circumstances and getting into this whole issue of hardware, software. This is holistic and it's enterprise wise and it's transformational wise. So if I'm sitting in here, I'm sitting with this knowledge within my head, which I've set there before, and the whole thing came back to why do these things happen? It happens because we get lax, we get lazy, we do things to this in that standpoint. So the
Well,
mindset says,
Not always.
yeah, I don't say that's I'll totally disagree with that.
I would too.
well, okay,
Totally disagree with that.
maybe not you personally, but
Well,
we're
you just,
talking about-
I'll say everyone here on the phone, or not the phone, on the call, right? So we've got Mike Austin, I see Curtis Paul, I see Sydney out there,
Yeah.
I see some others.
Good.
Yeah,
Is it-
and I'll stretch myself out there. There's several others, right? But
Yeah.
I would say we're probably doing our best to say, okay, let's do business, not just business as usual. We're trying to just say, okay, how can we keep everyone current and communication ongoing? That's part of it, right? And that's what we're talking about. Okay, how do we show and demonstrate the value? I think we've got some good starts here.
Well,
to help
you're
put
absolutely
that
right,
forward,
Bill.
right?
If it's me personally and I'm sitting in that arena, it's because I've developed a culture within the people I'm working with that we're going to have this communication and so forth. If it happens outside that aspect of what we're doing in here, but what we're doing in here, if we've done it right, we've already implemented outside to try to bring that culture in to how we communicate within the organization.
I never said we're doing anything wrong.
No. And
I never
this
said
is
we're doing
okay.
anyone's doing.
In spite of everything that we're talking about right here,
Right?
some of these things happen many times. If you're trying to save your job, then you have to look at what's happening out there. This is where you just sometimes it happens out of your control. And so you look at what's happening there, and you have to determine, can I turn this around and save my job, or can I not? If I can, then start finding out where we miss the gaps and start getting those gaps closed.
Yeah.
And taking that
Absolutely.
action to get it done. That's how you do. I walked into a situation where they got themselves in a real big mess. And that's exactly what I did. And it was a short time frame. I walked in, and I didn't. And when I walked into that particular aspect coming in, I said, "This is what you're going to do. You're going to do A, B, C, and D, and we're going to do it. No discussions. This is if you want to correct this. This is what we do. If they don't agree with that."
Well, and that's where I think
you say,
Mike
okay,
Austin is right.
thank you very much. I'm not the person then that you need in here, and I dismissed myself from things before because they don't want to listen. So it's a matter of what's going to happen and who's the list. Are they going to be listeners? Are they going to be learners? Or do they move the mindset that we're going to change and use this as an opportunity to make ourselves better and to avoid. And when we get down to the thing where they're doing handset cuts and it's in a big thing, we don't know what that is.
So Don, you're absolutely right. So executives are going to think what executives do, right? And I think Mike brings up a great point, right?
Well, and we're talking about personal
degree, right? Well, Don, hold on. So it's being able to say, okay, it's more than just answering tickets. It's more than just performing tasks, right? And that's what we're talking about here. How do you put that forward? Again, how do we, if we're doing business as usual, right? We have all the cutbacks that happen, et cetera. And I think all of us, everyone is currently here on part of this, whether you're on video or you're in the chat,
no,
right?
You're right.
You guys live that, right? Is, okay, we're trying to figure out how to put that forward, right? And you're trying, okay, and the end of Mike's, I just read the end of it is everyone's focused on doing the tools. They're not focused on looking at the value. And you're absolutely right on that part. So absolutely put there. And then, what was the other thing with Mike? I'm pulling this up real time, so I'm just rolling. You can show the value by developing strategy that aligns to what you're using and happens in negotiations, risk mitigations of flow, and leverage against vendors play catch up. Yes, or play.
Yes, you can.
Right. But keep in mind, we're just trying to tell executives that we're doing a good job. For us, And the dialogue, and maybe I'm going a little too far here, put too many assumptions in place, is by understanding some of this may not be good enough.
Right.
It's not.
Right? But if we take this and say, okay, we go to leadership, it's like, here's what we're doing, asset management, here's the value. It's like, how are we on our new initiative?
Yeah. And is anybody reporting that value up to you other than what we have?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the dialogue. It's not about, and we're not trying to outsource anybody in this case. Literally, we are the asset manager. So we're the asset manager in this place.
No.
We're just trying to say, okay, we're keeping things status quo.
Listen.
Why don't you reframe it for a moment? Let's put this just a little bit of a twist on it.
Go for it.
Right?
Go ahead, Rob.
Instead of what you think you need to do to defend your own position and your job, consider this. You have a team of 5, and leadership is telling you we need to cut the cost. What would you need, and how would you go about defending them?
Let me write that down here. Team of 5. Need to reduce headcount.
That's the call from management.
Happens everywhere.
I tell you what.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Okay. I go back to management and I take these 5 people and I say, I go back and I start saying, here's Joe. Joe, let me tell you the value of Joe and what's happening here.
You got 15 minutes to have this point for the entire team. You go to the executives and make your point. 15 minutes.
And it's found these things and say, Joe has these skill sets and he has these things. He brings this value and and remind them what Joe's done within the organization as part of this team to do that. And then you say we need to maybe Joe needs to be moved to another area where he can help in this situation since we're reducing headcount, and make Joe not be one of those. You run through that with each one of your people. You have to do it before you go in. You have to do it with it. There are times when the people just don't fit, and in the organizations I run, if they don't fit, then I've helped them exit out graciously. Not because they couldn't do it.
Well, I understand from a higher level, you're absolutely right, but we're not even that far yet, Rob.
But from a higher level, now I'm being a manager trying to save my people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different situation looking at it personally. Right? So that's a different mindset. But then who are you talking to? The managers up above you may not have that mindset. So it's trying to.
Managers above you have been told that they're reducing headcount.
Absolutely, and their heads may be on the chopping block as well. Let's just be realistic, guys. Here.
So let's hear from some of our peers here, Don, a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
What else comes to mind here, Rob and Deanna? Because I mean, we've hit this from multiple angles, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of things from my perspective, because I've had teams before and I have had to justify them. We even got the team broken up and reassimilated. But
right.
Some of what I like to point to is the number of tickets before we had the team and the number of tickets after, and the trends for incident management, problem management, and request fulfillment, because those are all interfaces to service desk and that affect the business and the efficiency of operations. So those kinds of things, they need to be put in front of management and realize that maybe you don't even look at this. That's part of the reason why you need to have this team, because you've never felt like you've had to look at this. This is not a pain point for you, and this is why it's not a pain point for you.
Yep. And then the value provided, right?
Value provided and the risk avoidance, cost avoidance, and cost savings. So hard and soft cost savings coming back from the finance angle. then you could dive into all sorts of metrics there. Look, the age of our assets since we put the team together is no more than 4 years old with some exceptions.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Whereas before we were working with 7 and 8 year old assets that were way out of spec for security purposes.
Yep, exactly.
There's a bunch of those things.
No. Cool. Deanna, any thoughts?
A lot of this has to do with understanding how do we get it better no matter what we're doing. Why is a tool going to
Oh no.
We lost.
Well, how's a tool going to work correctly?
I know. But
No, you're right. You're right.
because one of the hardest things is for the people is when you change a tool on them, they have to change completely, because even though 80% is the same, it's that 20% that's different that you really need to concentrate on. Every application within its like ITAM, they have to work about the same. It's just where did you put the button? Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens when they merge a new, say, procurement, again, a tool, and it doesn't exactly follow the same rule or likeness of the people? Then they have no idea what's going on. I was at one company where everybody got an email. Then everybody also got a piece of paper put on their desk because they're not reading the email. Communication. Okay? And we know the tool's going to change, and it happens over the weekend. Monday come in, their red button is now green.
Well, so is there, on the team of 5 with the scenario, we reframed our scenario here a little bit. Is there something else we should be adding here, Deanna, on that part? So you say, okay, here's the value provided for what?
Yep. Again,
Rob's
I would go
provided
to
so far.
training, cross training, communications with other departments.
Yeah.
New or old, when something changes, we need training.
Still over here. That's true.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay. You guys are saying exactly what I was trying to say, but I'm at a higher level here because overall, these are things you're going to do specific to where you are and what you're doing within the thing. It doesn't, and for everybody out there on the phone, it's the same situation. You're gonna spout these things. You're gonna go through these things. Is doing it, but again, what are we talking about here? Reframing to save.
We were just trying to provide
maybe
a better example.
it's
here, right?
something for
More
the
clear behind it.
organization.
That's all.
You know, it's why is it being done, and how tied are my hands going into this situation, or how much freedom and
Well, I mean,
leverage
typically what you're hearing
have I
today,
on?
right, is there's no increase in budget, right? And that can be, or a decrease in budget. We're going to decrease budget by 20%. So what's that? We're going to need to reduce headcount, reduce costs.
Right. Yeah.
If we're lucky, it's only 20%.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, right? It may actually say 50%. I was with one organization one time that's like, we're going to have no increase whatsoever on how we're going to pay for maintenance ongoing. It's like, guys, you can't do it.
Right.
Well, we have no increase in budget. They're not going to help out IT. It's like, you need to get rid of staff, right? That's the reality behind it, right?
Yeah. And so, Bill, they reduced costs by 12%. I said in meetings where I said, let me tell you, we've already reduced costs by 30% in my organization in the past year. Year over year, we've been averaging reductions in cost of X%. So I've gone down that pathway. It's all, again, comes back to what's happening whenever those things are said. And sometimes that's out of control. Deanna mentioned several things, procurement and other things around here that were awry. They were outside the scope, but should have a connection to the scope of how procurement operates, because you got to help influence that if you're going to make change in ITAM.
Yep.
That's a big issue. See, that's what makes ITAM so unique. Is that holistic view, impact it has. It's about impact. Okay.
Well, it is. It's about your stakeholder value. To your point,
Exactly.
right? So I mean, that's where you're going here.
And I was trying to do it at a higher level in discussions, guys. I would do exactly what these guys talked about whenever I was sitting in those positions. As controller, I did. I saved the two people in a reorganization at, there and had them move on, even though I was moving out, and it was clear I was moving out because they're not going to let it happen with any of the other ones that were out there in the organization. They went to a different mindset and get what they call a governance thing.
So the other thing I think on this one, which I'm still came out of the team of 5, but it's just another brain thought, right?
Right.
Is when we talk about this before, after the value, et cetera, right? It's also about expectation setting. That's really what we're doing, right? Right. So expectation saying, okay, here's what we've done. If I reduce headcount, because from the executives I've worked with, they want what if scenarios. Because they have that, again, it's a 15-minute discussion. You're lucky it's maybe one slide, maybe 3 slides if you're lucky. It just depends how much detail what they're looking for with like 15 backup slides. But it's also okay, if I'm going to reduce headcount, what's the pain we're about to induce into the organization?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right.
Well,
that's where my brain goes with this. It keeps moving. It goes down. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes you never know what you're going to do with a whiteboard. But the whole idea is you have to say, okay, here's the pain you're about to incur. Are you willing to take that risk? And that's up to them, not us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and to be honest with you guys, we can look at these things that happen. I can look at what happened within big corporations, and they make their own decision because they just they knee-jerk react, or this is how they were educated to handle these situations, and it's not correct, and it wasn't correct overall to begin with. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at guys with years and years and years of experience and having been through these things at various levels throughout the organization. Even seeing defense contracts shut down because they didn't do it right. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So the root thing is, can I help change behavior and stay on here and fight to make it happen within the organization, or is it because or in my case I come back and I'm supposed to be going somewhere. Back off of a medical leave whenever the cut her did, and I was out. They'd already made the decision. I was out. They made it, and so forth, and they were told this is what you're going to do, which would have happened in this organization, and it was the wrong decision to make. They messed up big time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
And you can't change that dynamic at that point.
No, absolutely. But we have to figure out there's an interesting word.
The thing that you guys are talking about is what you need to do. That's
well, it's also about the thing we have to, and I think you bring up a good point there, and I'll point this out, right?
Yeah.
We keep saying we're going to fight for our people. Actually, I don't know if I'd say fight for our people, and I'm just going to use a little bit of wordsmithing on that. It's how do we make sure we're aligned with where executives need to be in order for our team to be effective. Because if they know the pain we're about to incur as an organization, that's what they're paying us for.
Right.
Now they're not taught that in class. Right? They're not taught that at all, right? But that's what executives expect from us. Right? It's like they don't have time to think about all these different parts. This is why they're bringing us into the room.
Right.
And from that standpoint, I'll say, okay, tell me the pain I'm about to incur because this is what I'm thinking, but I don't know because I only have a certain bucket of money. That's it. I have entire infrastructure support. I have customers coming in. I've got stakeholders. I've got I've got stockholders in the board I need to attest to and show saving. And there's additional comments coming in. I can't see them at the moment. But that's where, from an executive perspective, that's where they're coming on this. That's what we're walking into. And for us,
That's true.
we're coming in. It doesn't matter whether you're a nonprofit, et cetera, right? Everyone has a somewhat of a board you have to talk to. It's like, okay,
They are.
it's like, I just need you to tell me, because I don't have time to think about all the minutia, and I'm the executive. I don't have time to think all the minutia. I need you to work through it, X, Y, and Z. I'm more than willing to help you through this and do my extra hours, because that's what executives do, right? If they're good executives, I'll put it that way. And from that standpoint, just help me communicate, because I don't want to eliminate anybody.
Right.
That's the truth behind all that. So you're right. They're making decisions. They don't want to eliminate anybody, but they're being required from their own other things outside their control to say, okay, here's what I need to do.
Well, and Bill, you're absolutely correct. In the ideal situation for what a C-level manager and leadership should be doing, and leadership is the big thing. How I'm going to do what I do to demonstrate leadership. Leadership is what speaks to the people that you're talking about, and being and there are CIOs up there that don't have that mindset. You know, for example, when have you ever heard anywhere? Have you ever heard a CIO Joe Doe just did, and it would hit the national news. It's a big corporation, believe me. He makes $50 million a year, and he's saying, I'm taking $25 million and I'm throwing it back out into the organization. Out of my salary, take it.
I understand. That's a different tangent.
That's leadership and care.
I get it, but we're on the last couple minutes here for today. I can't believe we're already at the top, which is not surprising. Yeah, so as we look at this, is there a 15-second wrap up we can provide that? Because I see a couple of comments I want to make some comments on before we wrap up here at the top of the hour as well. It's been a great discussion, good dialogue. We're actually going to come back to this. I'm not sure exactly how, but I want to craft the next step, because I think it's like Pandora's box, right? You're opening it up and you don't know where it's going to go. This is awesome, by the way. I'm loving it. And I love the dialogue. Again, we're like around a kitchen table or a kitchen island and just, okay, we're having chat. We're friends having chats here, which is great. So Don, 15 seconds. Well, how do you want to wrap up on this one?
How do I want to wrap up on? Be sure you know who you are and what you are, and what kind of leadership type of manager are you within that organization? I think that's extremely important in what you do going forward.
Awesome, cool, Rob.
Well, one of the things that I can tell you is you can, for instance, have met all of the expectations that have been set over the course of years, but the decision can still be made well above your head. And you have to just come to a point where you either, are you going to do all of them? Are you going to defend? Are you going to show? Are you going to make the argument? Or is it time to go? Because you might find that that's the reality of it. And that's the hard part, is dealing with the honest reality.
Absolutely.
And accepting it, and then just moving or staying. That's all kind of after.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's a great point. Great point. We have to keep that in mind no matter what we do. I mean, the best thing you can do is if you get that meeting and all of a sudden HR shows up and they're in the room, which I've been through, just say thank you when it's all said and done. You're going to totally throw them off, right? Because it's okay. It just means it's time for you to move on to something better. It's all good. Deanna, I was not trying to take away from your time.
No. Finding good people, as Mike Austin is saying in there, sometimes finding a person is not necessarily what they know today, but how well they can learn and be a good source tomorrow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And let me bring up some of these real quick. I know I'm a little bit over, but I want to make sure I give everyone their due show. Mike Austin brought up part as far as good people, hard to implement tools. It goes all across the line. And you're right. The business leaders, they don't want to know the knowledge, actually, because they're counting on everyone else to do it. That's why they're paying for them. So that's absolutely. And they're going to do a limited experience. This is why it's still an uphill battle for us, right? Pushing that rock uphill. And then we got, okay, that was Curtis Paul. Sorry. I've got too many things happening here. Absolutely, vendors sell tools, silver bullets. Yeah, I wish they were silver bullets. Sometimes they're gold plated. We'll just say it that way because they're priced that high. And it's up to 68% of solutions. Yes, it drives me crazy on that. And finding good people is the hardest thing. Most managers are failing to realize that in recruiting. Oh my gosh, there's a whole recruiting discussion we can talk about. Just that alone that we're going to talk about. Actually, on Friday, we're going to talk about some of that, some of the pain. So a little preview on that. We're going to be talking about some of the pain just trying to get into on the recruiting side, on this side of the fence, not on the inside with that. But no, this has been awesome. I really appreciate everyone's contribution. Again, it's great kitchen chat, right? It's great discussions amongst friends. Figure out, put it forward. We have more to come on this. Again, I wasn't sure where this is going, but I'm loving it. So we'll have more discussions, but this is a great start for everything doing. So I appreciate everyone's contribution there and contributing to the chat. We're going to be back here at 10 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, same time, same place. Feel free. We have a LinkedIn, and there's also on YouTube. If you haven't hooked on YouTube, it's ITAM Kitchen on the YouTube channel. It's going to be our YouTube channel. So we're going to have that as well. So thanks, everyone, for your contributions. This is great. And you have yourself a great day.
Bye.
See you later.